A lot of people seem to think and use the word China is a totalitarian state. To be honest, I had to look up what totalitarian really means because although I've heard it used many times, I'm really not at all sure that it applies to China or any other country where I've been for that matter. The Encyclopedia Britannica had this definition and it seemed to represent the definitions of most others, so I'll use it. Totalitarian is a form of government that theoretically permits no individual freedom and that seeks to subordinate all aspects of individual life to the authority of the state. Wherever you are, welcome to another of my takes on totalitarian China. And the simple answer is no. It's a big no, it's a resounding no. China is not totalitarian. But the question that caused me to take this longer look came from a follower called Otto, who quoted a well-respected and independent journalist that I admire, Chris Hedges. So Otto contacted me by email and he said this: "Hello, Jerry." That's a good start. Chris Hedges, in a recent interview, referred to China's totalitarian capitalism. Did he mean working conditions in industry or agriculture? I wonder. There have been bad reports, including nets on outside of workers' dormitories to stop workers committing suicide by jumping off. Is that all in the past? Otto asked. Could you do a piece on this subject to give a window on the history of this issue? I don't assume, Otto went on, that you know all about this, but I think you will have a fair knowledge. Thank you. So, Otto, let me start the topic of China's totalitarian capitalism with a little political history by saying that although there is only one major party in China, there are 8 others, and they represent a variety of different industries and services, kind of like the Labour Party in the UK used to represent workers. Clearly now it does nothing of the sort, but workers are getting a say in China. The difference between parties in China and parties in the West is that all the parties work for the benefit of the Chinese people, led by the CPC in cooperation rather than as adversaries to the CPC. This is something that was agreed upon many, many years ago and works very well in China. The largest party by a very long way is the Communist Party, so why wouldn't they win if there were general elections? 12% of the population are members, and about 100% of the population who aren't members are married to parents of or children of members. It's a little like oil and water. Once mixed, you just can't separate these. I'm absolutely 100% certain that if there were a general election, UK style, tomorrow, the CPC would sweep the board. So for sure, that's totalitarian or not totalitarian under the definition. Now, there's one other point that makes China's system seem completely the opposite of totalitarian, and that is that the country is actually a dictatorship of the proletariat, meaning that it's the people who tell the government what to do, not the government who tell the people. Now, let me explain briefly what that means. To start, we need to remember how the CPC came to power. It was with massive support of millions of farmers and workers overcoming a corrupt and inept Republican government. That support is still very much alive and possibly even stronger than ever. So now we need to understand that, and when I say this, it's not an academically proven point, it's anecdotal. I get this information from thousands of people that I've met in hundreds of towns, villages and cities that I've been to. I didn't conduct surveys, but if I had, I'm certain that the results would be very similar. The CPC is well liked, well respected, and well supported by the vast majority. Now, one thing is certain, even if it isn't as high as 100%, then if anyone in China is asked, would you prefer a US-style democracy or the Chinese one that you have now, 100% of them would opt for what they have now, if that was their only choice. Now, I didn't see the report in which Chris Hedges asserted that there was some form of totalitarian capitalism in China, so it might have been out of context, but since I've heard the word totalitarian and dictatorial referring to China, I thought this is a good one. It's a good one to cover, and since there were allegations about workplace suicides, I thought it's even better to cover that too. As far as I can ascertain, there are no government-approved or sanctioned totalitarian work practices in China. There are, of course, some bad bosses, but there are very strong industrial labor laws written mainly around 1995, then enhanced in 2024. And one thing that is a complete myth is that sweatshops still exist in China. It is possible to find some very low quality workplaces, but they're generally very small. They employ family members, and of course they're not getting the work needed to sustain growth, so they are declining rapidly. That doesn't mean they don't exist here. They certainly do, but then you'll probably find them in pretty much every other country too. There were some suicides, yes, in a massive Taiwanese company. And I had to search this or research this because I actually thought the number was over 60. But then on the research, I found it was 17 in a 3-year period. Now, of course, that's not acceptable, 17 people in one company. But let's put it into perspective. It was back in 2009 to 2011, so it's over 15 years ago, and there's been no reports of a continuance. In its defense, FoxConn, the Taiwanese company that was involved, actually employed more than 70 psychiatrists to help prevent these things. It was doing a lot of work for Apple, Dell, Motorola, Nokia, and Hewlett-Packard. So it was a Taiwanese company producing nothing for Chinese corporations and only for international corporations, which do have high expectations. So let's not blame the People's Republic of China for this one. The company also at the time had about 3 million employees. That's larger than the population of most European cities, except London, Moscow, St. Petersburg. Now, if any of those cities only had 17 suicides in a 3-year period, they would be hailing that as a huge success. There are usually, and always have been, grills on windows. My own apartment building is festooned with them. They're as ugly as hell, but they revert back to a day when crime was rampant, not suicides. It isn't now, and they aren't required. My own apartment, after renovation, doesn't have anything other than fly screens and glass. I'm confident there's no longer a need, because burglary in China is almost non-existent. There's absolutely no doubt that the suicide rate in China has gone down. It was high. It no longer is. People in the West often say China lies about this, but the fact is, it's very hard to lie about anything in a bureaucracy. It is what it is. The suicide rate has decreased dramatically and is now, I think, one of the lowest in the developed world. Now, how can I verify this if China's lying? So I go to reports like the Ipsos Global Happiness Index, which shows China is the happiest country in the world in all of their surveys. So happy countries don't mean they don't have unhappy people, but it does mean there are usually less of them. I also checked the World Bank site. Yes, I know that's a banking organization, but it tracks using World Health Organization data. So it's pretty reliable, and it indicates that in 2004, the rate of suicides in China was 15 per 100,000 people. In 2021, when they stopped that particular survey, the rate was 8.9. I went a step further and checked the World Population Review and found that in 2024, the rate of suicide in China was 6.67. So I do believe China has reduced the rates. Interestingly, Taiwan is recorded separately, and the rate there is 19.1, exactly 3 times higher. The United States, in the same chart, is more than double China at 15.3. The United Kingdom is higher at 9.3. Australia sits at a lofty 12.3. So when viewed in perspective, China isn't so bad at all. How did they do it? In schools now, it's impossible to get to the roof without a key, and the keys are held in safe places. In high buildings, windows don't open fully, so you need to break them first if you want to jump. In factories where there were people jumping, they did put up some safety nets, the kind you might see in a circus under a trapeze. Drugs are able to be purchased without prescription, but you can't buy enough at one time to kill yourself. And that means you have time to think about it. You can buy some in a pharmacy, go to another pharmacy down the road and find that you're already in the system as having just bought some, so you can't buy any more. You have to wait a while and then buy some a few days later. But by then you've had time to reflect, time to discuss it, time to get help. There are helplines in every village, town or city. It's the same line as the mayor's complaint line. Phone 12345, just dial it. They'll put you through to someone to talk to. There are no privately available guns in China. I've never seen one. I've never heard of one, or know how to get one or where to go to get one, legally or illegally. And if I don't, then it's likely most others don't either. Of course, you can just go to the kitchen, you can get a knife. And the truth is, not a lot of people want to hurt themselves when they kill themselves. So not many people do that. I do actually know the most common cause, but I'm not including it here as it's not that important. And the last thing I want to do is give anyone an idea. So if you are thinking about it, don't research how to do it. Research how to get help to avoid it instead. I firmly believe, and all the evidence confirms, that suicide, like the crime rate, has reduced. Financial and educational burdens have been reduced on both parents and students by policies that make it harder to get ripped off, fairer educational systems making it less likely that people are going to be stressed out. There have been lots of policies that really make it almost certain that the rate has and will continue to reduce. There's also the fact that the life expectancy rate is increasing. Suicides are always going to be a thing. There's nothing we can do to prevent them all, but the fact is, in China, there are now less than there used to be, a lot less. So is China totalitarian? No. Are there suicides in China? Yes, but a lot less than there used to be. And as Chris Hedges has alleged to have said, China is a capitalist state, the answer is no, it's not. But I'm going to make another video about that one soon. China is anything but a capitalist state. It's socialist, but it does have some very interesting capitalist-style departures in its markets that mean it isn't pure socialist. And more of that in another video on this topic in a couple of days, because I've just started research on why China is still socialist, not capitalist, and how the market works. It's actually a fascinating topic worthy of a book, which I'll try and condense into a short video, which I hope you'll tune in for in just a few days. Thanks once again for watching my take on totalitarian China, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.